Welcome to the Happy Mindset, episode 123. Today's episode is called Occam's razor. So this is a principle that was, I think first I was looking into this in Wikipedia, most trustworthy of sources. But anyway, in Wikipedia it says that William of Occam, a Franciscan friar who studied logic in the 14th century, he was the person that made this principle more popular and well known. So basically what this principle boils down to is this idea, or this principle, that the less assumptions you make, the higher the chances are that you're arriving at more accurate conclusions. I've seen this play out in my life quite a lot, and I can continue to see it play out in my life on both a personal development level, a psychological level, and on a practical skills-based level, because you can't detach the two. Practical skills is created inside the mind, the intellect of somebody who's the same person as that person who's growing personally. So you'll sometimes hear that businesses grow. I think even Michael mentioned on his episode there, Michael Hilton, that even your coaching business will grow to the extent that you grow as the individual, the person. What I found with personal development is that the less assumptions I make about things, the more I am open to new ways of perceiving the world, as much as on an emotional level as anything, because that's the most challenging part when you're in situations where you're triggered by things, close family, friends, different people that trigger you in a way where you're completely frozen in that state and you're just reacting from it. So that's really difficult to deal with. My basic assumption there is that this feeling, no matter how tough in the moment it feels, is there to serve me. It's there to show me something. It's not about the other person, because in that moment I could be really angry at that other person, and it's not going to help me. It doesn't help me to make too many assumptions about that, which is why I fall back on that basic assumption that this feeling's here to serve a purpose. It wouldn't be there if it didn't serve a purpose. That's all I need to know. That's helped me a lot. And as well, it comes to how much of a story is there to who you think you are as well. That's been a peeling back the layers as well for me. That's been a process as well. That the less and less assumptions that I have about who I think I am, the more clarity of mind I actually seem to have, the more I'm able to actually work through problems and to see reality for what it is. So oftentimes what's blocking me, my blind spots, are assumptions. All these assumptions I've made to help me to make sense of the world. It's like anything in life. There's light and dark. There's positives and negatives. So at some point this would have served you, these assumptions, to make sense of your world. But then as you move forward with your life, when you need to become a different person at different stages of your life, or even to be slightly different in certain environments where you need to be slightly different, even to know the difference that you can be one person here, and know you're doing that. I think when you're not unconscious of that, I think that's a healthy thing, to be adaptable and versatile in an environment, but not lose yourself to any environment, or not fool yourself that you're a certain way. Because another thing I notice in myself is that I would tend to deny aspects of myself, but they'd be unconsciously coming out. I just wouldn't accept them, even though they're plainly obvious if I had my eyes open, and they're obviously obvious to other people because they have a better perspective on you. But that's what I found. It's very, very easy to delude yourself. And so that's something as simple as this. Will be somebody who never admits to being wrong, who will blatantly say, I didn't do that, even though you know they did that and they know they did that. But they've been so conditioned into believing that they can never be wrong, that they'll deny every time they are wrong. So it's a really messed up thing that can seem very simple and subtle, but that person actually can go through life believing that they're never wrong just because they deny it all the time, and over time they'll block that out and believe the lies. So this Occam's razor, this principle, can help you to cut through that stuff, cut through to the most basic assumptions, and continuously refine that and question that. As a programmer, I find that it's the simple solutions that when I'm looking for the simple solutions, I enjoy the process a lot more than when it becomes overly complex for no reason. I don't mind complexity and navigating that if it's something that needs to be there, but I think it's simplicity whenever possible. Go with simplicity. it'll just stand up to robustness in the real world as well when things are simple and easy to explain. Even on a speaking level, when I'm explaining things, no point in me trying to make convoluted ways of thinking about things and unnecessarily different words and stuff. Using the most basic words I can. That would be me as a language hacker there. That's how I got into language hacking. It's when I had maybe 10 synonyms for a word, I'll choose one. I'll learn that, and then I'll learn the other 10 if I need to over time in the different situations and scenarios I'm in. That's generally my approach. That's more of an Occam's razor approach of not assuming that you need to learn all the synonyms to start with. Question that assumption and just like learn what's practical. How would you go about it in the real world? Just go back to the baseline of being a baby, that evolution, that natural organic evolution. How did you go about acquiring your words? It wasn't that you sat down one day and learned a list of synonyms. You learned each word in context. And that's how it sticked as well, because it went to muscle memory a lot better as well then. It was more fluid. So with Occam's razor, this is something that is very, very subtle in day-to-day life. What's helped me to make this more tangible in my life has been writing. I wouldn't even known about this concept if I didn't start the writing habit. Wouldn't have even known Occam's razor was a thing. The other thing that writing gives you, it makes you conscious about the power to your words, the power through thinking through things, the power of your thought process, the effect that has on other people as well in your day-to-day. When you're more intentional with the types of conversations you're having, with how you're reacting, with the words you're using, the power of words. This is what will help you to make Occam's razor more conscious, and this is the payoff in your day-to-day life, is that you're starting to notice more where conversations are just never going anywhere. They're just a dead end. So you start moving from those conversations to conversations that will allow you to progress in life, allow other people to progress as well. Something I've started doing recently has been the artist's way. I've been doing morning pages. Do about 3 pages of that in the morning. It's a way to just write out everything that comes into your mind in the morning in an unfiltered way. A lot of what stifles us emotionally on an emotional level is the filters that we have in place to interact in a civilized way, I guess, in society. Some of these are necessary. Some of them are dogma. Some of them are unnecessary beliefs we have about each other, unnecessary assumptions. Again, Occam's razor will help you to notice the difference between all this stuff, because some of these filters are useful. You're not going to walk around life in an unfiltered way where you're always telling the truth. There is subtleties to this, there is nuances to this, and that's why writing is a great thing to get into, because that's where you can start exploring the nuance, start expressing the nuance. That's something I think we've lost touch with on society. I think that's causing a lot of problems in the world, that we're getting the balance wrong between simplicity and complexity. So when you look at, well, I haven't even really been on Twitter, but from hearing through the grapevine, what I often hear about Twitter is that it's triggering for people, because it's very limited, the conversation, the dialogue, and people are misinterpreting things all over the place. It's very, very emotionally charged. But what you want is to have a forum where you can flesh out the nuances, you can engage in a dialogue, get different perspectives. That's been transformational in my life, has been writing, just being intentional with it. It does require work, though. I'm not going to say that this has been easy over the last few years, getting myself to start writing more. I do enjoy it. But again, like anything, you can enjoy playing football. I enjoy playing football. But if you're going to take that seriously, be professional in that, then you're going to have to show up in the days you don't want to show up. You're going to have to deliberately practice so that you get better at it. That's what I do with writing. That's how it can be challenging. It's not like I'm just doodling around every day with no intention to it. There's an intention there, there's a deliberateness to it there, there's a creativity to it there. What the morning pages actually started to help me with, which I didn't really anticipate with the writing, is to actually just express my personality a bit more. I found that's been a process. Again, it's the filters, it's how you think you should come across and your reluctance to really voice your real thoughts around things, and even the art around voicing them in a way that's not too blunt either. So it's what I think the morning pages is helping me with is to express the emotion in an unfiltered way. And then when I go to writing a blog post, which I'll post online, I'll use that same emotion, I'll channel that same emotion, but the words will be different. I'll be talking about it in a way where I'm trying to relate this to somebody else's life. So it's slightly different. So that's been a process, because that can be very. You can't just do that from day one as a writer. get all your raw and unfiltered emotions out onto a page and expect for it to land and people to understand it. That it's a long-term process there. Even in real life as well, when you start coming across these concepts that will help you, it takes a while for their impact to really be known, because it takes a while for you to start noticing how powerful your thoughts are to begin with. To begin with, you might try and fool yourself. You might go, I realize the importance of this. A lot of that actually is what I found from my experience. A lot of that is bypassing emotions. Again, it comes back to, if I've got a story, what I'm starting to notice more and more as I move forward with things, is that if I've got a story, there's a whole story to it, then my only assumption now is that there's some emotion that I'm afraid to feel here. There's some truth I'm afraid to recognize. There's something there. And I'm okay with that too. I don't expect myself to just feel it or just see the truth, because if it was that easy, I would have done it already. There's some uncomfortable truth there. And there's so many uncomfortable truths through life as well. That's why it's so individual. Because it's so nuanced and stuff. Like there's even truths in my life as well that I just wouldn't share, because they're so personal and they're delicate. But it's from facing that then in my private life as well that I can actually express things a bit more freely and head things in the right direction. So again, it's discovering that process, unraveling that process as well. So it's a tricky one. But Occam's razor a principle like this makes it simpler, the process itself, because what I found the most difficult is when you're overthinking things all the time. And this isn't even on a conscious level. Even if you notice your body could be stressed out and holding itself. Holding patterns is another thing. What's his name? So there was like Freud, there was Freud, and there was Jung. So Freud and Jung, I read some bits and pieces here and there about them. Some of their stuff has definitely influenced me. I'm reading a book at the moment that goes through Freud's work. The thing is with Freud there is that he really helped progress society in terms of just people using the word unconscious, understanding there's an unconscious that's driving us. When you read through his work, it's like anything, there's flaws there. I guess there's even nuances there for his life. Well, that's what I kind of noticed as well, is that because you just got one experience, anything general that you're trying to understand will be in some way framed by your own individual experience, and it's very easy to extrapolate and go, everybody's experience is like this. So Freud often ties it back to sex, in the libido, all problems. I think there is a good amount of problems in there in the sexual repression, but I don't think everything's traced back to there, that everything's traced back to the things he's saying. I think there's definitely truth there. That's why I've read his work, and that's why I've been influenced by his work, and that's why it's helped me as well. He's helped me to understand things. Jung as well. I think Jung had a more spiritual side to him. I like Jung, so I'm exploring a bit more of that. What was the other guy's name though for holding pattern? I think it was Wilhelm. I'll just Google that quickly. Wilhelm holding patterns. I think he was a bit more controversial. Wilhelm Reich. Yeah, I just came across him one day because he talks about the body's holding patterns, and the body's got ways of. It's got holding patterns because it's trying to stop you from feeling something. So that's something to look into as well. Wilhelm Reich, Freud, Jung. There are people over the years that have advanced psychology and these understandings. Like anything, it's complex, it's nuanced, it's not perfect, but it definitely helps. It's helped me to understand my psychology a lot better than I would otherwise. So I'm grateful for these people to advance psychology like that. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Occam's razor. So you can use this in your practical skills with language learning, programming, and then with your psychology as well, with your personal development. It's really curbing back your assumptions, questioning your assumptions. I do it through writing, through journaling, through morning pages now. And I do it through feeling what's coming up for me as well. Especially the stuff that I'm feeling a lot of resistance to. Because what I noticed too is that when you've got a lot of resistance in your body, or in some unconscious way to feeling a certain thing, it leads to a lot of mental fatigue, I found as well. Because it's the feeling that you're trying to run up a hill, or it's a feeling that you're trying to drive a car, but you've got your leg on the brake. That's the feeling. And when you start feeling into these emotions, then it's like, geez, I'm starting to lift my leg off the brake. Things are becoming a bit more clear. Things are becoming a bit more effortless. So this is another thing that is nuanced. You want to explore things as well that seem to come effortless to you, that feel effortless to you, but they don't seem to come effortless to other people. Sometimes what's been holding me back is that I felt that it always needs to feel like hard work for me to be doing something meaningful. But oftentimes, actually, what feels effortless to me, what I feel like I enjoy doing, like there, I read about Freud, I read about Wilhelm Reich, and all these different people. It's got nothing to do with my job, but that's what I love doing. It's something effortless. It's something that I don't have to force myself to do, and yet that doesn't feel like work then to me. That was kind of my obstacle here, is that doesn't feel like work. So why should I be paid for that, or why should that be of any value or service to people? But it's good to look in that direction. I'm starting to look more in that direction as well, what comes effortless to me. So I'd encourage you to explore that. And that's it. So head on over to the website, happymindset.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a coffee icon there. Another thing is my book's on there, Taking My Life Back. And the podcast is there. And my Udemy course for Mindset Hacks for Language Learners. My Udemy course helps you to question. It helps you with the mindset you need to be a language hacker. It takes you through some simple stuff that isn't covered in the educational system. Things that will help you to explain things that will help you to actually speak in the real world and make it a bit more effortless. So yeah, check that out if you're interested in language learning. And that's it. Thanks again for listening, and I will speak to you on the next episode.